Hey there, it's Rusty Nelson, your college art professor, and it's watercolor day. I am working on a viewer request for a bird, a rose-breasted grosbeak, and I thought it's time for a new bird demo. I haven't done one in several months. I think the last one I did was a live session up at the university for a bunch of grade school kids that I posted. I think it's been about 3 or 4 months ago when I did the last bird. So I love doing birds. They're great for demos. They're great for building skills, confidence, and they're just simply a lot of fun and they don't take a lot of time. Here we are. We have the sketch on a 300-pound Bao paper and the reference up there in the top right corner. And we're going to get started real quick working with a CMYK color palette, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and that yellow looks pretty gnarly, but it'll be all right. We'll be able to get some nice colors out of it. The image has a greenish color background, black and white, and red on the bird. So this shouldn't take too long, and we should have fun doing it. So let's get started. I'm going to work with initially a 2-inch flat that I'll go in and block in the background, and then I'll probably jump over to 1-inch flat, and then I have several rounds. Number 5 round, probably about number 2 round with a mop that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to use my 1-inch flat first to get some color, and we'll get it onto my little flat palette here out of the thing here. This is a good way to clean up my yellow right here. All right, get quite a puddle. I've got a nice big spot back there to work with, and I need kind of a brownish green back there. So I'm going to get some of this cyan going here, and that's way too hot. It's a little thin yet too, and it even looks a little grainy. So I need to liven up my colors a little bit, get some of that. All right, okay, so way too green, and we're going to introduce a little red into it to knock it down, get a little more of a neutral green, a little more of that, and I think we're right in there. And then I'm also going to get a little more of a blue puddle, and we'll get a little red right there, a little bit of that magenta right in there, and a little more yellow, get a redder red. All right, cool. So that's kind of a brownish, muddy looking red right there. All right, so this is that nice, there we go. Get a little more of that green, here we go. I think that ought to work. So I'm going to load it up. It's going to have a lot of pigment in it, and we're just going to use it real quick. Come in, and I'm working wet onto dry initially. All right, and I'm just going to touch in, get a little more color. I'm going to just work around here. Get some interesting shapes. I'm going to do a live edge again. Nothing too mechanical on that. It doesn't have to be highly saturated. It's a fairly light color. All right, cool. And we'll just work our way around. There we go. Get a little more intense color for coming down around along the side. There we go. Get a little more red now. Just coming and pulling it down right along in here. Soften that up a little bit, pull it down. Right down here to that twig. Down to the bottom. There we go. Perfect. And let's get up here. We'll kind of have to retouch. Again, this is a slow paper, so even though I've been away from that initial stroke, it's still going to feather nicely. So we'll pull that out like that. Get a little more yellow, orange. There we go. Pull that right down into here. Got a nice bead going on. Unload my brush. There we go. Right along that leg, that foot. a little more yellow. I'm just going to drop a little more right up in here as well. There we go. All right, I just went into the bird a little too far. I'll have to fix that. All right, let's get some more of that red. Come right up under here. Did all that just for color variation. Come up under this side, get along that little knob on the branch. There we go. Perfect. All right, right along here. All right, right down there. I had a stain on my paper. I don't know where that came from, but it was the perfect color. I could just paint right over it. All right, so I have color blocked the background. I'm going to go in and color block the bird. I'm going to start out with kind of a bluish underpainting on the head and wherever the black exists on the bird, and then I'll even drop in some of those cool grays and stuff on the form of the white, just to get a little bit more of a three-dimensional modeling effect to the body, a little more of a 3D dimensional effect on the body of the bird. And we should then let that dry, and then we'll come after some of the, this is going to be a fairly quick one, so it's just a matter of some glazing and some line work, structural work, and we should be done. Okay. All right, so I am now going to switch over, and actually I'm going to grab a flat right here, and I'm just going to soften up a little bit of this spot right down here. Just loosen it up and take away some of that sharp edge right there and right there. Just going to loosen that up, and I want to pull some of that color. I'm going to grab a bit of it. I want to pull a little bit of it right on the inside of that foot right there that I missed. So that was just a little housekeeping to be done. And also, this is still drying, and all sorts of fun stuff can happen in here. Hasn't dried that much. I can still come in and throw some splatters into it, get some textures happening, do all sorts of fun things. Let's get some of that red right there. I'm ignoring my purpose here. There we go. So we have some visual interest we can drop in with that. It's still very damp. It hasn't dried that much. So, and I see a spot looking up at the screen. I'm just going to take my number. This is a number 3. I'm just going to come up in here and just kind of put a little dry brush right there. I just wanted to kind of level out that spot. And even down here, I might throw just a really hot piece of red right down there. That's just a little more of a balance issue for the piece than anything else. So get a little more of this blue. I'm going to get that right up here. All right, still fussing with the background. I said I'm going to start working on the bird, and I'm sitting here messing with the background. All right, so there's that blue. I'm going to get just a little smidge of red in there. I'm going to go for kind of a ultramarine, if I can get something similar to mix. It doesn't have to be real heavy or dense. All right. And I'm looking here at my bird, and I'm going to throw it. I'm really worried about right up under here. Throw some of that blue right up under there, along the top of the head. Right up here, there we go. And it doesn't have to be all that pretty, mainly because it's going to be the underpainting. Get a little more blue. I want to get a little more of a, there we go. We got some nice ranges of blue happening. I like that. I'm going to throw it right out here on the wing, right over here as well. Okay, and right along in under here. We're going to feather the hell out of that. There we go. There we go. All right, so I got a little more right on there, and we'll get a little more right up under here as well. And again, I'm going to feather that out right there. That red, I don't mind one bit. This is all just underpainting. I'm going to get some right along this spot right in through here. Okay, there's that nice blue. I'm going to soften this up. Good. And it becomes a warmer looking gray. I'll throw some of that color into it. All right, so we're going to catch some of that warm gray right up under the tummy, comes right up along there. The leg is kind of accentuated by that tone. Feather that out. Yes, loosen that up. All right. And I'm going to get more of a yellowish gray here. And it becomes definitely more of this color. I'm loosening that. I came into the body of the bird right there, but that's okay. I can deal with that. And we'll throw that tonal range right down here like that. And I will catch all of the detail and structure when I get to the contrast stage. Throw a bit of it over here as well. There we go. All right. The beak has more of an orangish color, so I'm going to get some of that built. And we'll throw that right up here on the nose. That's the darkest spot right there. And right along in here. Right underneath. And we'll just soften that up a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and pull a little bit of it out here onto the purple. It's still damp. We're going to have some nice interactions there. I'm going to throw a little bit of it up around the eye. There we go. All right, get a little more of that blue. I'm going to make it a little bluer blue. Very thin, but I'm going to throw it right up along in here. There we go. So that's all just underpainting. All right, and I'm going to throw it right here on the foot. This foot is definitely a bluish color, and we got parts of this foot in that bluish color as well. And we'll protect some of those highlights. Okay, and then we'll soften that out. All right, and then we need to get some color on that tree branch. All right, and we're going to try to maintain a nice highlight on this top edge of it, and we'll just come in and introduce very similar color. Get a little more cool right up under here. Okay, right under there. Really gets pretty heavy. Get a little more red. There we go. It's getting a lot crunchier, so I'm doing a little more dry brushing right there. There we go. And just a little more dry brushing right up next to the foot. All right, so we have a nice highlight edge. We got the birds pretty well blocked base color. I'm going to come over Mix up a brighter red if I can get it without getting white in there. How'd that white get in there? Hang on, gotta clean out my brush. All right, let's get that yellow again. All right, let me find a nice clean spot. I must have had white in my tray there. All right, nice red, yellow, and magenta will get us a red. There we go. That looks like a fun red. All right. 100% yellow, 100% magenta gives us a nice red. And I'm going to come in. I'm going to keep the red. Feels pretty dry right there. I'm going to keep the intense red right down here, right here on the bottom. Kind of zigzags up. All right, and all right, I'm keeping it very, it's wet on dry because I do kind of want these strokes to be seen as we work our way up. Okay, kind of, I want that feathery transition from red to white. We can soften it up as we go. All right, and then again, I'm working with, I want edges. All right. Right up like that. And looking here. And we're gonna, and we can, this transition from the blue to red here will be done a lot with the black. So I'm just going to give becomes more of an undertone up here. I can feel a little dampness on that background, so I got to be a little more careful. All right, so we're pulling that red around. There we go. And then we'll just come in and flood it. And then get it nice and wet. Wet on dry, it's not going anywhere. I can even come in and get a little more of a crunchy edge right there. Okay, and for that highlight, I'm just going to come in and we'll just pick a little bit more right there, where it kind of changes saturation, intensity. I'm just going to lift it out. Right there, just for some color variation. And then I'm going to throw just a smidge of blue. Let's get that blue right there. Come on, blue. Come on, magenta. There we go. I want that slightly dirtier red, and I'm going to pop it right along in here. All right, like that. And we'll throw some of it right down here as well. All right, and we'll throw a little bit right up here. All right, it's mixing, it's melding. That paper is still very damp. So we've already got the cape kind of figured out. And I'm just going to throw just a smidge of that red right over here on this knuckle. And on that leg right there. Just as a reflected color on that foot. And maybe a little bit of that warmer right along the shadow side right there. There we go. All right, so it is looking pretty good so far. Stage 2, we got it pretty well color blocked. We're going to let everything dry and we're going to come in and start adding the structure, the contrast, the saturation, the textures, and everything. And this bird should come together. So Give me a minute. We are ready for stage 3. We're going to start doing all the fun stuff, and I think we're going to essentially start doing a little drawing with some of the darker blacks and browns and get some of the structure built into it, and then we'll start doing some glazing and bring up some of the subtle color changes and things. So let's get going. Yeah, it's still a little damp right here. It's dried for a couple minutes, nothing major, but it's looking pretty good. So I have now a looks like it's my number 3 brush, and I'm going to grab some of this black. I know, it's kind of scary. Mixed it in with some of that red, and I think I kind of like that kind of a warm black going on here. It's fairly thick. I'd say it's about a milk, about a milk structure or consistency. And I'm going to just come in, I'm going to grab and get a bit of some of the structure in various spots. So I'm going to just kind of get a crunchy edge along that separation of the upper beak and lower beak. Right there. Comes right up to that lower beak, and then it transitions over into that shape right there. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and plug in some of my eyeball. Let's look here. Yeah, it's a fairly round shape, so let's get it painted that way. And we got kind of a half moon shape up there, and we kind of have a broken shape bigger on the lower portion, and we are going to get the center portion about like that, and I'm going to let that be for a second. And I'm going to work on the outer ring around the eye. All right. And it goes from fairly thick to fairly thin right around it. Doesn't have to be even. All right. And then I'm going to grab that shape right above the back side of that outer ring. It comes down around, kind of comes in right like this, and even underneath we're getting some cool shapes, and right in through here comes right up to the beak, so it comes right up to that little shape right there. So you can really see how much fun and what happens when you start adding that contrast in. Yep, there we go. And again, I'm not being hyper realistic to the photo. It just has to read as a bird. All right, so we'll get that edge. Got a pretty long neck. I don't think I drew it quite right. I think I got the wing a little too high. All right, and then it starts to come out and around, and here's where we can start getting those transitions from red feathers to the black of the cape of his head. There we go. Definitely have shapes kind of happening right in here like that. Comes right off of his beak back here. All right. You can see how that underpainting is really kind of doing the job once I introduce that stronger contrast. And then the back side of the head back here. is all going to be very dark. Okay. And then get all that really dense color, and then I can come in with a wash and working with that underpainting, reactivating some of the darker darks, getting that paint to reactivate. And there's a nice edge right up there. We'll soften that out with water. There we go. A little more darkness. There we go. Good. Good, good. So that's looking pretty cool. Get a little more dark. Running out of pigment. Get a little more of that red. There we go. All right, and then we'll get after some of the structure on this wing right here. And I'm going to go after, I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'm going to come after that top beak. Just give it a thin broken line just for definition. Switch back over to my number 3 for going after more of the wing work. There we go. Cool. I'll just drop that down just to find this little tummy as it crosses over. Some structural marks. All right, and switch back over to my number 1. I'm going to get this. Foot established. There we go. There we go. I'm going to get this one over here as well, right where the foot is gripping onto the branch. Perfect. Throw that. There we go. I'm just drawing. That's all this is right now. All right. Just doing a little structural drawing work for the claws on the bird's foot. All right, cool. All right, now back to the fun going on with the feathers. Okay, remember I had that soft. It gets out of focus back here, so we'll we'll have to soften this up after I draw it in there. All right, so again, I'm going to unload my brush. It's damp, all this pigment right there, so we're just going to soften it out and let it spread. Okay, do the same thing over here. Coming right down now into that. And it's got a sharp edge right where the tree limb is. Right, and then it feathers out in various shapes. We'll get the shapes. Switching brushes again. And then I'll feather it. Unload my brush and we'll just feather it out. Soften it out. There we go. Soften this out right there. Cool. Okay, and I need some red. I'm going to get some of that red. There it is. I'm going to throw that. There's some of that red right up in here. And right up here. I'm going to unload it and soften it out. Just make it more of a suggestion of red right there. Cool. And we got a little spot coming right off of here. Just going to throw it out there. I'm going to soften it out because it seems to be a little out of focus or transitioning into the other red. Cool. And I'm going to throw a little more of that yellowish orange. Got too much white in there. Throw some of that right up there. Just going to intensify that right along that top beak, unload, and then soften. And I'll get the underneath side right up underneath, right up here. Unload my brush, soften it into the color, not away from it. Good. And I'm going to take and get some of this blue-gray. I'm going to soften this back portion of the eye right back there and right up here. Interior of the bird's eye is very blue, so I want to get some intense blue. And I'm going to drop it right on the inside of the eye. It's too thin. I'm going to drop a big puddle. All right, we'll leave that be. And actually, I'm going to get a little more of that. I'm going to throw a bit of it right up here on the top portion of the beak. Nice. And I'm going to throw a little more of it right down in here as well. Good. I want to get now, there's that gray. I want to get that gray right up under here and start getting some of this texture leading right down to the leg. Soften it out a little. Good. Uh-oh. Throwing my brush around. Okay. All right, as that's drying, I'm going to grab a little more of this crunchiness. Get a little more of it onto the branch. Dry brushing it. Textures. Good. Directional marks for the curvature of the branch. Get a little bit of it over here as well. The paper texture is doing a lot of the work right there. All right, cool. That's drying. I'm going to go back and get back to my textures I was trying to make. I need to get this sharp shadow right here. Right there, kind of a blue-gray. We'll work a little more of that right up in through here. And right up under here a little more. There we go. Get a little more saturation onto the feet. Textures. Color variations. Here we go. And then I'm going to get in here. I'm going to define this. This guy's foot, or his leg. Come on. It's very damp right there. That's the problem. There we go. Good. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, that's very damp. All right, I'm going to soften this up. This is a little too sharp right in here. I'm going to get a bigger brush, do a little more scrubbing. There we go. Just soften that up. Get a little more pigment in there. Nice. All right, let the bird dry a little more. I'm going to come after the darkest work on the branch, the underneath side. I'm testing it out. I don't want to set my hand in any wet spots. There we go. Do a little drawing with that warm black. And again, I'm not drawing continuous, I'm not outlining, but I am drawing. I am just adding definition, textures, structure, all to that branch, direction, all of that stuff happening right there. There we go. Throw a little more blue on it. There we go. That works. Okay, we'll finish off this spot right up here. Cool. That's looking pretty good. And let's get this right here. Excellent. That's looking good. We're getting there. I'm going to go back to my 1/2 inch flat, and I'm just going to come in and see if any of this color will pick up and lift right here. I just wanted to have a little hotter highlight right in through this spot. So just reactivating and lifting and picking. And I'm going to go back real quick, get some of this greenish color. I'm just going to put a little smidge of it right in through here. Get a little more red. Throw a little more of it right in here. Boom, I think we have just painted a bird. I see a couple spots I'd like to hit it with some hot highlights and load my paint from my brush and get in here a nice thick opaque mixture. There we go. All right, here we come. All right, I want a nice hot highlight right up here. Right along there. And right in here. Yep. And let me get a little more. I'll get a little more going here. Unload it. All right. And I'm going to put a nice hot speckle right there. I'm going to hit a couple of them right up here. And right there, right here. Cool. And we'll hit that right there. And one more. I'm going to hit some of them right down here. And there's a couple right up here. Hit a couple right in here. And maybe just a bit right there. Maybe a tuft right there too. Excellent. There we go. And I think at this point we're pretty darn close. To being done. There we go. We just painted a rose-breasted grosbeak as a viewer request. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun and went together pretty quick. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. Some basic colors in the background, a black and white bird with a burst of red on its breast, and boom, we're done. So, hey, I hope this little demo was fun and helpful and you learned something from it. And if you did, please give me a like and a subscribe. Head over to the video description. Check out any of the resources I have on my website. Links are in the description. And if you think I'm doing anything on this channel worthy of some financial support, please head over to my Patreon channel and give me a $5 a month membership. I truly do appreciate it. It helps a lot. So I hope to see you in the next tutorial.